I'm Paulina Leiser, producer of Focus Today. Thank you for watching this video, and make sure to check our other videos at theDove.us.
Welcome back to Focus Today. Hey, what a delight to have back with us today Bryan Crabtree. He's been covering Boeing for quite some time, and I want to talk to him all about that. He also has his own talk show. He's the publisher of Talk40.com, contributor to Town Hall. You can go to the BryanCrabtreeShow.com and check him out. And what a delight to have him back with us. Hi, Bryan. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you.
Yeah, good to see you. Well, the president-elect says, cancel that thing. $4 billion, get it off the table.
Well, he's got a point. How much research do we need to do to build another airplane? We've got very advanced technology, and this 747-200 model that is currently serving as Air Force One, there's two of them. It's about 25 to 30 years old, but it has anti-missile heat distraction measures that it can shoot off. It's wired up to thwart off a electromagnetic pulse. It's got an Oval Office. It's got 4,000 square feet of workspace. It's a pretty robust aircraft. Maybe we just need to upgrade a few things and move on. I think if we're going to be in a nuclear war, the president ought to be in a bunker, not in an aircraft.
Well, we saw that on 9/11, where George W. Bush went to the bunker and got underground for a little while. But anyway, $4 billion for a couple of airplanes? Really?
Well, a lot of people are questioning, where does this number come from? And the best place I can find it, you never know where Trump gets his numbers, but if you look at the Marine One helicopter program that Barack Obama canceled in 2012, and don't hold me to these numbers, but I think it was budgeted to be about a $4 to $5 billion project to redevelop the chopper that ultimately takes the president from the White House, for instance, to Andrews Air Force Base. That burgeoned up to 7.9 toward $9 billion. The numbers are kind of fuzzy, way over budget, and Obama canceled it. The same thing is happening to this project. At one point, it was $2 billion, then 2.9. Now, one estimate from the Pentagon puts it as high as $3.2 billion. The only thing committed at this point is $170 million for research. But the $4 billion, we presume, doesn't even buy the airplanes. That's just development, research, and getting the engineers involved. The planes themselves will end up costing $300 million to $500 million each once the final product is developed, and won't be delivered until 2024.
Is this a case, Bryan, of $1,000 hammers and $10,000 toilet seats?
I think so. I think one of the factors here, I'm not saying that Boeing is taking advantage of America, but they are. Maybe America is taking advantage of itself, in the sense that there were only two airplane companies that got the request for bidding from the government, and that was Airbus, which is owned and based in France. They have an American operation as well, but it's owned by the French, and then Boeing. Airbus ultimately said it makes no sense for us to launch this in America to build two airplanes, so we're going to bow out. And then Boeing was a single bid contract, and it was, of course, accepted. I don't know why we need so much technology. Now, I do have a theory, and it's only that, a theory. I believe a lot of pressure has been put into this project to make this a shining example of how energy efficient an aircraft can be made. So let me explain that. If we use Air Force One at a cost of $2, $3, $4, $5 billion to develop this magnificent energy efficient airplane, then we have developed the technology that forces all the other planes to move toward that, you see. But it's at our expense as the taxpayers. It's not really for the intended purpose of quote unquote security. And it's more of the Obama legacy of green energy and things that really subsidize products where there is not a market. And I think that I think there's something of an undercurrent of that in this price tag.
Did the $1 million contribution to the Clinton Foundation from Boeing, I mean, where does that show up in the equation?
I think on that one I'll pass on assuming that had anything to do with it. I think it has to do with the fact that there's more to this plane than just building a new Air Force One. I will say this. the current planes sound like they're pretty old. They're 25 and 30 years old, but you have to remember that age is not a factor in aircraft so much as it is pressurization and depressurization. So every time a plane goes up, it's pressurized. Every time it comes back down, it's depressurized. That in of itself and the lift and the landing is what really creates the stress on the body of the plane. So the more times a plane goes up and down, such as an American Airlines flight that may fly up and down every day, almost every day of the year, those planes wear out far faster, maybe 15, 20 years, than Air Force One, which probably has, I'm not an expert in this, but maybe 10 or 15 years of lifespan remaining. I think we just need to build an updated version of the 747-800 and let that be it. But that's just my humble opinion.
Well, you know, you're dealing with a guy here in Donald Trump who understands aviation, and he understands planes, and he certainly understands the efficiency of new engines. I mean, just replace the engines with the new ones and leave it at that.
Well, I do think you're getting to the point where you have to start thinking about what do we want the next Air Force One to be, because ultimately these planes are getting more near the end of their useful service life than they have been in the past years. These were built in the 80s. And there are two that fly at all times. There's a decoy, a backup, if you will, and then the Air Force One plane that's actually got that description because the president is flying on that plane. Ultimately, it wouldn't be that hard to replicate this plane, update some safety technology, use more fuel-efficient technology. I mean, when I covered Boeing for several years, it was about one of the most technically advanced aircraft that's ever been made, the 787 Dreamliner, which is made of carbon fiber, where it's not even metal. They wrap thousands and thousands of times this fiber around the wings, which makes it ultimately lighter and incredibly stronger, which makes it one of the most fuel-efficient planes that will be delivered on the marketplace for the next decade. And these are big planes. They could easily apply that technology for, I assume, a lot less money if they want to make an energy-efficient version of Air Force One. And I think on top of that, they could add some additional nuclear capacity or defense mechanisms to this plane that aren't already there. The biggest defense mechanism Air Force One needs is fighter jets. I don't know of anything else that really can be dependable, no matter how much research they do, to make that plane safe in the event of attack on America in any regards.
You know, you went right where I wanted to go. I just don't know why we just scrap this thing and go to Dreamliners and call it quits, because their intercontinental capability, their efficiency is through the roof. You may not get the square footage, but you really don't need that, because it doesn't look like he's going to be carrying the press around.
Well, he's got it in his pocket. It's called Twitter.
I mean, you know, he can tweet his way around the world. He can tweet his way around the world. He doesn't need to take the press corps with him.
I got a better one for you. Why does the president need to travel so much? You and I are on a Logitech camera. I'm in Atlanta, Georgia. You're in Oregon, I presume, right now. Right. And I'm connected to a MacBook. This is a different world than what we had when this plane was designed, where the president had to get face-to-face. I think the people, in most cases, ought to be coming to our president, and on a rare occasion, the president travels to meet a queen or a top official for a summit. But do we really need to travel abroad as much as this president has done? I don't think so.
All right. A couple other quick questions for you, Bryan, on your show and everything. Do you think the pushback on the mainstream media is still going to hang in there for a while? Because it looks like they're just trying to avoid their criticism and move on. And this president's figured out a way to get his message out without him, and that's through tweeting and other social media meetings. Where are we going with this?
I think the end of what we have known to be the mainstream media occurred on November 8th. And I think they're going to have to wake up and realize they will have to adjust, because the country, the people, and that at this point is led by President-elect Donald Trump, in a sense, are not going to mend or bend toward the media. So the media is resisting what Trump is doing because they think they're still in control. Some will remain, but not many. I think there was a lot of media outlets and individuals within those outlets that lost a ton of credibility over the last 18 months, and that is not coming back.
All right, a couple other quick questions. Who do you want to see Secretary of State?
I mean, if I were king for a day, Rudy Giuliani. I think he is a guy that has been well underutilized by Republicans. He is a great man in a crisis. He's strong. He's also diplomatic. Mitt Romney will be fine if he's chosen, but Mitt, I think he dug a grave for himself politically. not with his opposition of Trump, but the way he opposed him. But if he chooses Mitt Romney, he's a good man. He is diplomatic, and I think he'll do a great job. He just wouldn't be at the top of my list.
Okay, all the other appointments you okay with?
The one that I have the most heartburn with is Nikki Haley, and pardon me on the Treasury Secretary. I can't ever, Mnuchin, I think is his name. I'm a little concerned about him just because of the fact that he was partnered in a hedge fund, I assume, that bought One West Bank, which bought IndyMac, and they have a pretty bad record of the way they treated people. I'll give him a 6-month pass to prove my concerns unfounded on that. Because I say this to the people, even though I can't stand the governor of South Carolina, Nikki Haley, who's now UN ambassador, and Mnuchin gives me a little heartburn just for a moment. I have to trust the guy we voted for and give him a chance to make all of this work. I think 6 months is where I'm going to give him a pass on anything that I don't like. And then after that, I can start being critical because we'll have enough time to look in the rearview mirror and have some good policy record and administrative record to judge from. Now it's just conjecture.
You certainly set up a question. Why does Haley give you heartburn?
She is the Republican version of Barack Obama. The media doesn't investigate her. The only media that she engages with is national media. They don't ask her South Carolina questions. She never gets held accountable for the kids that have died from the Department of Social Services, the way she hid the hacking of 7 million tax returns in her state, the fact that her Department of Transportation director, who she thinks is a great person to have chosen for that position, was found driving under the influence during the biggest snowstorm South Carolina has ever had. And the list goes on and on and on, including pay-for-play scandals that are as big for the state of South Carolina as it was Hillary Clinton to the State Department. No one covers this stuff about this lady, and I'm sure Republicans don't know it either because Haley always goes to Fox News or some of the other channels nationally and talks about Obamacare, and of course, we love her positions on that. But when it comes down to ethics and who she surrounds herself with, I would suspect, unless she changes and gets better people around her, she's going to hear those famous Trump words at some point, "You're fired."
That's interesting. Wow. Man, that's stuff none of us have heard.
No,
one last question.
It's sad.
Has Palin shot herself in the foot?
I think Palin shoots herself in the foot, in my opinion, every time she opens her mouth. I am not a fan of Palin. It has nothing to do with her association with Nikki Haley, but I think birds of a feather flock together. There's something about Palin to me that seems extremely fake. There's nothing wrong with what she says. But if you look at her record as governor in Alaska, it's not as bad as Nikki Haley's, but it does bring some of the same questions about competence. And so I've never was a fan of Palin. And now that she's opened her mouth saying things against Trump that were well known, by the way, during the election, she knew these things. She still supported him. Now she doesn't like it, and she's calling the carrier deal crony capitalism. I think she has long lost her mind. I just think she's lost more of it now.
Wow. Hey, you're fun to have around. Let's stay connected. How's the
Absolutely.
show? How's the show going?
Show's going great. Articles all the time on talk40.com and townhall.com. I invite your viewers to read them.
All right, talk40.com, townhall.com, and his website for his show is thebryancrabtreeshow.com. Thanks, Bryan. Let's stay in touch. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you.
All right, God bless. We'll be right back.